Hello friends and welcome back to Generation Pixel, and if it's your first time to the channel, you've picked a splendid time to pop along because you see, I'm about to do a response to a response. That's right, because you see, just a few days ago I put out a challenge to the community to share with us their top 10 games in their collection as scored by Metacritic. Now a lot of people done this and it was wonderful, but three people and two channels took it one step further. You see, this pair behind me here, a Co-ople of Nerds, well, they not only showed their top 10, but their worst game in their collection. And this obviously spurred on Josh from Drinking Games with Josh to not only show his worst game, but do a top worst selection. So we got 10 of his worst games. Well, you know what? 2 can play at that game, or 3, or 4, or however many it is now, and I'm going to show you my top 10 worst games, my bottom top games, too confusing. Let's just run those titles. Okay, so as I said before the titles ran there, I'm going to be doing my bottom top 10 games, my worst games, my 10 worst games in the collection as scored by Metacritic. And as I said before, this was spurred on by responses from a Co-ople of Nerds and of course the guy you're about to see over here at Drinking Games with Josh, the wonderful Josh himself. Anyway, let's get on to my bottom 10, and obviously starting with 10, which isn't the worst game. So hard to work out this, I wish I hadn't started, but here we go. Game number 10, we have Transformers, the game. Yep, it's a game that I've not put much time into, but it's Transformers. How can you make this a bad game? I mean, really, people? Anyway, I'm not going to take too long to do this, so let's just throw stuff aside and move on to number 9. Number 9, we have Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Again, it's Jack Sparrow, people. How could you make a bad game with Jack Sparrow? I mean, this is going to be obviously the theme. How can you mess up Jack Sparrow? Next, we'll move on to number 8. And number 8 we have Ghost Rider. Again, a fabulous character. How can you mess him up as a video game? But it's number 8 and the meta scores show it. 7. Da Vinci Code. Now, I loved the books and I loved the movie, but you know what? The game is awful. Probably because they didn't put enough time and effort into the license, but there you go. Another game that should have been fantastic, but is in the bottom 10. Okay, 6. BMX Triple X. Now, there's no argument about this. This is just a purely bad game. But of course, with cover art like that, how could I not buy it? So, BMX Triple X. 5. Now we have Tomb Raider and Angel of Darkness. Now, I think this game gets way too much stick, way too much critique. It's not bad. It's not the greatest Tomb Raider game, and yes, I've went on to make some fabulous ones, and the first ones were great as well, but just too much bad criticism with this. I don't think it deserved it, but there you go. So number 5, a game that definitely deserves to be down there. And it's a franchise that I love, but Sonic, or Shadow the Hedgehog. I don't know why, but they struggle with Sonic in 3D, but maybe one day they'll get it right, and I would love to see Shadow make a return because he's such a cool character. 3, losing count now, we have Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and this one was obviously inspired by Johnny Depp because it's, well, not the Gene Wilder one, which was, you know, a better movie as well, but it's down there as a really bad game and I haven't played it, but I will, because you know what, I quite like bad games, as you might be able to tell from the collection here. Number 2, a recent acquisition into my collection, and this is Legends of the Guardians, and it's the owl game that I got in my Better Half box. Now, if you haven't seen the Better Half box openings, then I recommend you go back and do that because they can be quite funny. But there you go, number 2, my second worst game, the penultimate worst game in my collection. And let's move on to what is the worst game by Metacritic standards, because I'm not having this. Because this game, the game that is the worst game in my collection, well, it's not the worst game because it's Celebrity Deathmatch, or MTV Celebrity Deathmatch. Now, anyone who hasn't played this, well, you should give it a go because, well, especially if you've got any sort of nostalgia for the 90s, because this game here is 90s awesome, trashy, attitudey nonsense all wrapped up in a video game. You can't get a better representation of what the 1990s were than MTV's Celebrity Deathmatch. Now, I know a lot of people do love the TV show, or did love the TV show, just like I did, crawling home from the pub, as we call it here in Scotland, early hours in the morning and watching some of this. But the game itself is such fun. Now, you're not going to play it for hours on end, and you're not going to play it all the time, but every now and again I will drag out MTV Celebrity Deathmatch and just have such a blast, because it's just good fun. And there you go, that's the top 10 or the worst 10 in my collection as according to Metacritic. I hope you found this quite amusing. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel and you want to see more of this wonderful face, then, well, the subscription button is right there as always. But more importantly, I can't stress this enough, comment. YouTube thrives on comments. If you've seen some of these games and you think, well, they shouldn't be worse, or they are the worst games, or you've got even worse games, then hit me up in the comments, or even put out a video response, because let's face it, YouTube, especially in the gaming realm, is all about the community. So thank you very much for watching this probably almost one take video, and until next time, cheerio.